Hi, welcome back to another Stand on Guard with David Krayden. I'm your host, David Krayden, and we've got an interesting little tidbit for you today. This recently has been getting a lot of play on social media, been virtually ignored by the mainstream media. But Pierre Poilievre was doing a little electioneering in a writing, and he called both Justin Trudeau and Pierre Trudeau Marxists.
Poilievre, your next prime minister. Give him what you got to tell him, Peggy.
Tell me, Peggy.
Oh, I think his dad started putting this country down, and he's going to put the nail in the coffin.
Not if we can help it.
His dad started it a long time ago.
Well, they're both Marxists.
So he's claiming both of them are Marxists. Where did this all come from? Well, he was Mr. Poilievre was doing some electioneering in Michelle Ferrari's writing, and she was taking the video, and she just happened to be taking video when Poilievre made these remarks about both Trudeaus. Now, it's quite interesting because I'm not sure he would have said that in a public place. He clearly believes that. Is it true? Were and are they both Marxists? Well, the response from the Liberal Party, and we'll use this was a tweet from Mark Garretson from Kingston in the Islands, which is a riding that's gone back and forth over the years between Liberal and Conservative. The Conservatives who have won that riding, though, have been very much red Tories. So Kingston's very Liberal today. So Mark Garretson actually had a rather muted or toned down response to this. He said, "Say what you will about our political leaders, but to refer to any Canadian prime minister as a Marxist not only shows a massive misunderstanding of the term, but indeed is an insult to all those who have been subject to the political ideology." Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that because let's have a look at this next one here. This next slide, which is quite interesting. This is a CBC story, by the way. And if you look at the headline, it's talking about Justin Trudeau being the son of Pierre Trudeau. But look at the picture. This is Justin Trudeau next to Fidel Castro, Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. And when Castro died recently, of course, Trudeau was eulogizing him to a large degree. And of course, there are a lot of people who would think that Fidel Castro was Justin Trudeau's father, because of course Pierre Trudeau and Margaret Trudeau vacationed at Castro's private villa in Cuba in the early 1970s, just about the time Justin was born. You can also remark about the similarities in the facial structure and whatnot, and that Justin really doesn't look too much like his father, who had a really cadaverous skull-like face, and looks a lot like Fidel Castro. But the point is, really, whether or not Justin Trudeau is blood related to Castro, he's politically related to Castro, as was Pierre Trudeau. Now, why did Pierre Trudeau go down to visit Castro and make a big deal of this? Well, he was snubbing the Americans, who, of course, had an embargo on Cuba at the time, had since the Cuban Revolution, just after the Cuban Revolution. So this was his way of looking like a big man, was to poke his finger in the eye of the United States, at that time, President Richard Nixon. But of course, Trudeau was infatuated with communists. And of course, as we learned from this CBC story, there is a beautifully framed photograph of Justin Trudeau of Fidel Castro, in the Trudeau home. And he was always told that he had a friend, a great friend, in the great Fidel Castro, leader of the Cuban Revolution.
The Prime Minister is defending a statement he released where he called the former Cuban president a remarkable leader and set off a storm of outrage. There is personal history here. In 1976, then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau visited Castro and was roundly criticized for befriending a communist dictator.
It is indicative of Canadians' desire to maintain an independent foreign policy. There's something for us in trading with Cuba.
It's quite an amazing scene.
When Castro attended Trudeau's funeral in 2000, he and Justin Trudeau shared an emotional embrace.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is being sharply criticized for his praise of the former Cuban president.
And now he's getting his own serving of criticism for his eulogy that said, while controversial, Castro was a legendary revolutionary and orator who made significant improvements to Cuba's education and healthcare systems. Others were not so admiring.
I'm really happy, that Fidel is responsible for the death of a lot of people.
Opposition leader Rona Ambrose said her prayers are with Cubans who continue to endure Castro's long and oppressive regime. President Obama said history will judge Castro's impact. Around the world, pundits and politicians are calling Trudeau a fool and worse. Senator Ted Cruz called his eulogy disgraceful, and Senator Marco Rubio asked if it was a parody. And now the hashtag Trudeau eulogies is trending, with fake tributes to other famous dictators, like Cambodia's Pol Pot.
I recently interviewed former Liberal MP Dan McTeague, who is now the president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. And he is the whiz on gas prices. Doesn't talk like liberals do today. In fact, when he was in the House of Commons, he was what I would call a blue liberal. He was certainly a conservative-minded, common sense liberal. And I had a lot of time for him because he had a lot of integrity and principles, and he stood up for what he believed in. But he recently described not Justin Trudeau, but the Environment and Climate Change Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, as a Marxist. Let's have a listen to this.
Is a Manchurian candidate. And for people who don't understand the expression, I'm not talking about the movie, I'm referring to somebody who can be used as a useful idiot by another country to come out and spout these things off. He is a Marxist, and there's no doubt that his comments and his reputation, anybody who's done a bit of research on this man, will come quickly to the conclusion he's the last person you should have in Parliament, much less as a minister. And his jetting off to another country, where I come from, in my generation of liberals, that would be considered seditious and potentially treasonous.
Okay, so Dan McTeague here is talking about Stephen Guilbeault. And I don't know if he would go so far as to describe Justin Trudeau as a Marxist. He might actually. He was quite close to doing that. Probably wouldn't describe Pierre Trudeau as a Marxist. But if somebody had a picture of Adolf Hitler in their house, I think you'd suspect they might be a Nazi. You have a picture of Fidel Castro in your house, I suspect perhaps they're sympathetic to Bolshevism. And there's a lot more to this too, and I'm going to elaborate very quickly on this. But Pierre Trudeau eulogized Mao Zedong when he died in 1976. He was almost heartbroken. This is probably the greatest mass murder of the 20th century. You can line them all up: Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, but Mao comes number one in terms of the tens of millions of Chinese he murdered directly through political oppression, political murders, extermination, and through famines, the Cultural Revolution. Tens of millions of people died in China at the hands of Mao Zedong. And yet when he died, Trudeau eulogized him as a great man, a great leader. No mistake, he admired him. Just like, and you might recall this one, just like Justin Trudeau said, the state he most admires is China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
Communist China, because he says it's the basic dictatorship that can turn its economy around on a dime. What an incredibly stupid thing to say. But Justin Trudeau said it at a Liberal Party fundraiser in Montreal. Yeah, he said it. And I tell you, if there's any question about Pierre Trudeau's political lineage, he was a radical from the early days. In the 1950s, he was barred entry into the United States because he was a suspected communist. There's no question about that. That's part of the historical record. So yes, whether he died a communist, I don't know. But he certainly showed Marxist sympathies throughout his life in terms of the leaders of the world he admired, the regimes of the world he admired, and he most supported. And a lot of his policies were right out of the Marxist textbook, as are Justin Trudeau's, who believes basically that the state should keep on spending your tax dollars and never stop spending. So, should we go after Pierre Poilievre for making a statement? Was it too extreme to call both Trudeau's Marxist? If you look at the historical record, there's a lot of reason to believe that Pierre Poilievre is 100% accurate. And you look at that historical record, and you look at what these people have said and who they admire and who they support, and I'll tell you, every time, it's the wrong regimes. So we'll leave it at that for now. But I tell you, keep watching and be very, very concerned about Justin Trudeau. Because, yeah, whether his father was Pierre Trudeau or whether his father was Fidel Castro, both of them were extremists. Both of them were left-wing to the extreme. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again very soon. We're doing this not just once a week anymore, but 2 or 3 times a week. This was a take 5. We went a little over 5 minutes. Sorry about that. But I'll be back again soon. Our next installment, probably tomorrow, we're going to be talking about some very exciting American news pertaining to former President Barack Obama. Bet you can't wait. See it tomorrow. Hi, it's David Krayden here. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting the station. We could not move forward without you. What we're trying to do every week here is bring you the news you might not see everywhere else. And we're coming against Justin Trudeau's internet censorship laws. Please subscribe, ring that bell if you haven't done so already. I know it's annoying to ask. Believe me, I'm not a salesman. I'm a writer. But I really implore you to do that because I need this station to keep going. We want to keep bringing you the news that you want to hear. And if you want a story covered, let me know, please. Because that's where I'm getting a lot of news information from your tips. So thank you for being there for me. And you can also support this station by going on my Substacks and subscribing for $8 a month. Yes, I know it's free, but I can also use your support. So please do that if you can. And I'll continue to be here every week, every day if must needs be, to tell you what's really happening in this world of ours. And I'm in nobody's pocket. But I am on your side.